Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Comedic Pedro, 1973. I became a die-hard Cleveland sports fan on the last Cleveland Indians game, or actually a doubleheader, at the end of the 1972 season. And then of course, the season was over, so I couldn't really follow the Indians. And then so I followed the Browns in the fall. Cleveland Browns really, like my first season following a Cleveland sports team, and the Cavs that winter. But actually, baseball has been my first love as a sport, and always loved baseball. And it's traditional, and to me, baseball always represented hope for the future. And because they start playing in the spring, and when you're a kid, you're in school and you look forward to summer vacation, and everyone looks forward here in Cleveland or cold places looks forward to summer, the warm weather, and so represented the warm weather and not going to school. So baseball I always considered had a very happy feeling about. And so, and actually, 1973 was my first year following the Cleveland Indians, the whole year. And man, was I excited, and I was just obsessed with the Cleveland Indians, and all the sports teams, the Browns and Cavs, and back then the hockey Crusaders. So, and I used to, back then not many of the games were on TV. I think once in a while, but they were all on the radio. So I was listening to every game on the radio, 3WE radio, with Joe Tate and Herb Score calling the action, and Pete Franklin's sports line where you call in and talk Cleveland sports. And so listening to games on the radio, and actually the highlight of my day was the first thing in the morning. This is before cable TV and the internet. So I would be very excited every morning to get the Cleveland Plain Dealer sports section and newspaper and read it while I was having my breakfast. Peanut butter toast and cereal with milk and a glass of orange juice. My sister Patricia later complained that I ignored her during breakfast. She wanted to talk. And but she was 2 years older, 2.5 years older, and she was a girl, and she had no interest in the Cleveland Indians. And back then, the newspaper was really a big source of information. That's why they're struggling now, the newspapers. So man, I'd be sitting there with the sports section and reading the news, about games. There was there'd be columns in the news, and look at the standings, the baseball standings, and the box scores of the games, and I'd check out the guys' batting averages and their the won-loss records of the pitchers and their ERAs and so forth. So that was my obsession, and I really enjoyed it. Really followed the team, and they didn't have a very good year in '73. They were like 70, like way below 500. But all the guys on that team, Charlie Spikes became my favorite player. Power hitting right fielder. George Hendrick, Oscar Gamble, Buddy Bell, Frank Duffy, Jack Brohammer, John Ellis, Chris Chambliss, Dave Duncan, and so forth. Gaylord Perry, the ace, the pitcher. Milt Wilcox, Dick Tidrow, and the rotation. Brent Strom, I also really liked him. I was rooting for the underdogs. Tom Hilgendorf, and so forth. And my father was very good. I'd say, Dad, let's go to an Indians game. And in the following next maybe 3-4 years, we went to a lot of games. And he never said no. He'd say, okay. He'd come home from work, and we'd get in the car, head downtown, head down on Clifton Boulevard in Lakewood to the Shoreway and get off there, get off the Shoreway. And then my dad found a small parking lot that was fairly close. And we walked down that hill, I think it was West 3rd Street. Is that right? And to the stadium, Cleveland Municipal Stadium. I've been back down to where First Energy Stadium now is. And it's kind of hard to imagine. It's hard to believe that the old stadium is gone. It was torn down, and they built this new stadium where just the Browns play. We go to Gate A. Always go into Gate A and get our tickets, upper deck between home and first. My dad said you get foul balls there, and we walk in and get a scorecard. I remember one time they were playing Happy Days Are Here Again. Happy days are here again, the skies above are clear again. Let us sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again, your cares and troubles are gone. There'll be no more from now on. Happy days are here again, the skies above are clear again. Let us sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again. That's actually was the. I found out later, as a historian, that was the campaign song in 1932 for Franklin D. Roosevelt running for president. So we'd walk in, and my dad would always get a scorecard. It was like a little, it was kind of a magazine that had a scorecard in the middle, and you get a pencil, and we get our food. We get 2 hot dogs and 2 Cokes, and hit up those cement ramps to the upper deck, and then the catwalks out to the stadium, and find our seats. Or, well, the ushers help you find your seat. They'd clean the seats off, because they'd be dirty, and watch the game. Real simple. And it wasn't, tickets were pretty low, and my dad would buy, during the game, he'd bring a cigar and put it in his pocket, and smoke that sometime in the game. And he'd buy a bag of peanuts in the shells, and we'd have those. Watch the game. Yeah, we did that once in a while. My friends, Doug Kirkle, Johnny Carosha, and so forth, Robert Van Neal, we'd play baseball at Rocky River Park. And we talk about the Indians in school and at the park. And yeah, that was fun. And I ended up playing Little League Baseball, which actually was pretty painful because I was a terrible player. I always had that ambition. So anyways, 1973, baseball was a Cleveland Indians. Man, my first year. Oh, man, I was excited and really enjoyed it. Be very happy when they would win. I'd feel bad when they'd lose. So that was a real big thing for me in 1973. The Cleveland Indians. In fact, this T-shirt that I'm wearing, you see the C. The C here is was the Indians brought this out, first used the C on their caps in 1973. It was supposed to be kind of like an American Indian design. Now you see it on retro. Once in a while they'll wear it now. Since retro uniforms are a big deal, and so yeah, that's what they did. 1973. Ken Aspermonte was the manager. So anyway, so that's a story. Now, that was a big deal. Okay, so now on the cover of today's video is a photograph from the Waltons TV show, which aired between 1972 and 1981. 9 seasons, 221 episodes. This was a wonderful program. In fact, it'd be nice to watch it today. Very wholesome. The show is based on the book Spencer's Mountain, and then the 1963 movie from the same name. It's a story of a family in rural Virginia during the Great Depression and the Second World War. Waltons Mountain, a fictional mountain, and it's set during the years 1933 and 1946. And this wonderful family, John Walton Sr., big family, he was the father, played by Ralph Waite. He was a good guy, hard worker. He had a lumber mill and struggling to support his family. His wife, Olivia Walton, played by Michael Learned, or Michelle Learned, and she was very nice. Yeah, these parents she was very kind and very patient woman. And then his parents, so the grandparents were living with the family. Zebulon, Grandpa Walton, played by Will Greer, he was a funny guy, kind of joking around, cantankerous. And then Esther Grandma Walton, played by Ellen Corby. I didn't like her. She was kind of hard and kind of irritable. And so anyway, she was the grandmother. And then the children, John, or they called John Boy Walton Jr., played by Richard Thomas. He was the oldest of these kids. A real good guy, and he became a journalist and a novelist. He was a young man in the program. And a real good guy. And they called him John Boy, even because he was John Jr., and it's kind of ironic because he was the oldest, called John Boy. Real nice fellow, very kind, and a giving person. And then Jason Walton, who was the second son, played by John Walmsley. Imagine, he was a pretty good fellow. Mary Ellen, played by Judy Norton Taylor. She seemed to be rather discontented, very unhappy. Aaron was played by Mary Elizabeth McDonough, and then the younger siblings, Ben, Jim, Bob, and Elizabeth, the youngest of these kids. And so Walton's TV show, I thought it was a wonderful program and very wholesome. See, in the 1970s, our country had changed so much, been with urbanization and people moving around so much with the highways and transportation. So the extended family was falling apart. And in the 70s, people were living. We were becoming we really were an affluent country, and the extended family was disappearing. The thing is, what was nice about the Waltons, it was, yeah, you had this big family, like, wow, a really nice family, and they were enjoying, it was simple pleasures. Very wholesome program. And it was very nice at the very end. People made fun of it. At the very end, they'd say goodnight to each other. The people everybody be in bed, and they'd call to each other from the different rooms. Good night, John boy, and they'd say, and then there'd be this little it's kind of like the sound of bells, ding, 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 and the song at the beginning was real nice, da 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 da, da 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 da, da 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 da. Da, 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 da. So that was nice. Wonderful program, very wholesome, kind of like Anne of Green Gables. Simple living. The people, they had problems. They were poor, but hardworking and going to school. The kids, hoping for a better life. Good people, good family. I thought it was very, very wholesome and uplifting, and a very positive. I think this is a wonderful program and had a positive effect on our country and the world. Now, the world events in 1973. January 1st, CBS TV sold the New York Yankees to a group led by George Steinbrenner for $10 million. And of course, Steinbrenner has died, but his family still owned the Yankees, so that was a big deal. And Steinbrenner was from Cleveland, tried to buy the Indians, and couldn't work out a deal with Vernon Stouffer. Bought the Yankees and actually had a lot of success, although he was kind of crazy and difficult. On the 5th of January, the American rock band Aerosmith released their debut album. On the 14th of January, Elvis Presley had a Hawaii concert on worldwide television, and the telecast there were more viewers than the Apollo moon landing. Wow. Same day, Super Bowl VII, the Miami Dolphins won 14-7 against the Washington Redskins. And the Dolphins had a perfect season. They didn't lose a single game. And the only other pro football team to do that was the 1948 Cleveland Browns. Of course, they're not really recognized so much because they didn't play in the NFL. Tremendous season for Bob Greasy and Larry Zonka and those fellas. On the 17th of January, Ferdinand Marcos became president for life of the Philippines, which meant he was dictator. This was kind of a sad thing for Filipinos. They lost their democracy. On the 20th of January, Richard Nixon was sworn in for his second term as U.S. president. On the 22nd of January, Roe v. Wade, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the state ban on abortion. This continues to be a very controversial topic. Those who who believe women should have the right to have abortions, and those who believe that this is problematic, that there is life, and that the fetus is a human being, hasn't been born yet. Okay, the same day, George Foreman defeated Joe Frazier to become the heavyweight boxing champion. The same day as well, Lyndon B. Johnson, former U.S. president, died at his home, his ranch in Stonewall, Texas. February 11th was the first American POWs were released in Vietnam. There had been negotiations to end the Vietnam War, and so the guys started coming home, guys like John McCain and others. 27th of February, the American Indian movement occupied Wounded Knee, South Dakota. On March 1st, Charlotte's Web, an animated movie, was released based on the book. The same day, Pink Floyd released their Dark Side of the Moon album, which was their most popular album. March 12th was the last episode of Laugh-In, aired on CBS. Laugh-In, this comedy show. The 26th of March, the TV soap opera The Young and the Restless debuted on CBS. The 27th of March, in the Academy Awards, The Godfather won the Best Picture award. April 16th, Ron Blomberg became the first designated hitter to bat in Major League Baseball, playing for the Yankees. This was a new rule for the American League, where there would be a guy who would bat instead of the pitcher, because people found it kind of boring watching pitchers bat. Have more offense in games. On the 8th of April, Pablo Picasso died at his home in France. Famous painter. The 30th of April, there was the ongoing Watergate scandal, and U.S. President Richard Nixon fired White House counsel John Dean. May 3rd, the Sears Tower in Chicago was finished. The tallest building in the world at that time, 1,451 feet, or 442 meters. We went there sometime in the mid-'70s, and my father has a fear of heights. He wouldn't go over to the window. He was like holding onto the railing like 20 feet from the window. On the 5th of the month, Secretariat won the Kentucky Derby. That's the one famous horse, Secretariat. On the 10th of the month, the New York Knicks defeated the LA Lakers in Game 5 of the NBA Finals to become NBA champions for 1973. On July 17th, King Mohammed Zahir Shah was deposed by his cousin, Mohammed Daoud Khan, in Afghanistan. The 20th of July, Bruce Lee died in Hong Kong, famous actor and martial arts expert. Very sad. He was a young fella. September 11th, in Chile, President Salvador Allende was ousted in a coup d'etat led by General Augusto Pinochet. Allende was a socialist, and the U.S. supported this. This was very unfortunate because it was end of he'd been elected, and then he ended up having a military dictatorship for a long time. September 20th was the Battle of the Sexes. Billie Jean King against Bobby Riggs in a tennis exhibition at the Astrodome in Houston, Texas. This was a big deal. Yeah, and of course the feminists were very happy when Billie Jean King won. I remember watching that. It was a big drama. It was like men against women or a man against a woman. On the 20th of September, Willie Mays announced that he would retire after the season. So that was the end of an era. The great New York Giants and San Francisco Giants center fielder. On the 22nd, Henry Kissinger became the U.S. Secretary of State, one of the most famous ones. On October 5th, Elton John released his album Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which was the most successful one that he had. On the 6th of October, the Yom Kippur War started, the fourth and largest Arab-Israeli conflict involving Israel, Egypt, and Syria. On the 10th of the month, Spiro Agnew, U.S. Vice President, resigned because of allegations of income tax evasion, which apparently were true. On the 15th, Typhoon Ruth hit the Philippines. There was $5 million damage to the country, and 27 people died. On the 17th of the month, the OPEC oil embargo was started against supporters of Israel, the beginning of the 1973 energy crisis. Yeah, these Arab and Muslim countries that were producing a lot of oil said, well, we're not going to sell oil to you, including the United States, those of you who support Israel. So this was a real problem, and gas prices went up, gasoline prices. October 21st, the Oakland A's defeated the New York Mets in the Baseball World Series, Game 7. And despite Tug McGraw's slogan, "You gotta believe," and that was their second straight World Series title. The 26th of October, Guinea-Bissau became independent from Great Britain in West Africa. The 30th of October, the Bosporus Bridge connecting in Istanbul, Turkey, connecting Europe and Asia was open. So you had a bridge between two continents. November 17th, Richard Nixon gave a press conference and made the famous comment, "I am not a crook." On the 27th, Gerald Ford became the new U.S. Vice President. And, of course, later he would become president when Richard Nixon resigned. December 1st, Papua New Guinea became independent of Australia. The 16th of December, O.J. Simpson became the first NFL running back to rush for 2,000 yards. Of course, later he became infamous for this allegations that he murdered his wife. Very tragic, but he was a tremendous NFL player. The 23rd of December, OPEC, these oil-producing exporting countries, doubled the price of crude oil. Wow, so this was really leading to higher gasoline prices. The 25th of December, the movie The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman was premiered, became a popular movie. On the 26th, the next day, The Exorcist was another movie that opened in the United States, starring Ellen Burstyn and Linda Blair. Other things that happened in 1973 with unknown dates include the book Small is Beautiful by E.F. Schumacher was published, and light beer was introduced by the Miller Brewing Company. Now my family, both my parents turned 49 years old. They were still really mourning the death of my sister, their daughter. It had only been 2 years, and yeah, I can say in our family with grief goes on, and And eventually you really have to get over, but it was still pretty fresh. It was very tough for them. And we moved to this was another dramatic thing. We moved in 1973 in Rocky River from Beach Cliff Boulevard to Avalon Drive. And I found it, I didn't want to move. I remember when these buyers, people would come over, I thought they were buyers. I was like, ooh, trying to give them a dirty look. But anyway, my mom said we had to leave because my sister Pam's room was there. It really reminded my mom of Pam, so she said, "Oh, we gotta." So we moved to a much bigger house, and I really didn't like the house at first. Much bigger. It was on Lake Erie. We had a lot of. Eventually, it became home. You know, at first, for the first few years, I didn't like it, and huge yards. We had a ton of, and I really enjoyed working on the yard, cutting the grass, raking leaves, and shoveling the snow. And the front yard, the backyard, and we had to carry this lawnmower down steps to another grassy area down by the break wall by Lake Erie. So we moved, and then my parents, they brought their sadness with them. They were still good people. They really were going through a tough time dealing with the loss of their daughter. My brother Mark turned 21. He was at Oberlin College. He had his second and third years there, and he was having his struggles, I think, also. He was a young fella. It's tough when you're young. And he was an English major, as I recall, at Oberlin. And, of course, our sister Pamela, she was in heaven. She died April 1st, 1971, at age 16 and 10 months. And, when people die, you don't know, you can't really give updates. So we don't know. We didn't know what she was doing. But hopefully she wasn't feeling too bad about all the grief that was felt in our family. Because they say people who die, they're aware of that, and that's why we shouldn't hurt them by having excessive mourning. My sister Patricia turned 16 years old. She was at the high school, grade 9, a freshman at the high school at the beginning of the year, finishing up her freshman year, and in the fall in grade 10. And I was turned 13. I was at the junior high between grades 7 and 8, having a tough time at the junior high because of that environment was kind of tough. So in 1973, life was ongoing, and we had a good family, and our country. There was a lot of changing times, which is true, especially in today's world, which there's so much change. There's always been change, I imagine, but today much more in terms of culture and society and so forth. But in our family, life was going on. We were aging, and we were a good family. It's kind of a fateful year. The year we moved, and I was at the junior high, and then I became a diehard. My first year following the Cleveland Indians. So that concludes today's presentation, Comedic Pedro, 1973. You might consider liking and subscribing, and you also might consider checking out our website, Adventures in History with Peter J. Ray at peterjray.com. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care. And I'll see you next time.